my name is Daryl, and this is Programming in Any Language. Let's take a look at the if-else statement. It's not that much different from the if statement. As you remember, the if statement branches on a Boolean statement. If the statement is true, a branch is performed. Otherwise, processing continues without a branch. As you can see in the flowchart right here. The if-else isn't all that different. What it does is branch one way if a Boolean statement is true, and it branches a different way if the Boolean statement is false. It's really not that much different, but it is there to help you make your code a bit easier to understand and maybe a bit easier to code. Let's take a look at an example. What you're looking at right here is a calculate amount with sales tax program that was thrown together basically to show an if statement. Well, we want to take this program, we're going to modify it to an if-else statement. First, I want to show you the if piece on this thing. It's a very straightforward program. If I actually key it in, I put it $10 here, put in the 00 if I want, and then I put in a county like Milwaukee and hit calculate. And what it does, it calculates the price with a sales tax on there as well. In other words, we're getting 55 cents added to this thing. But if I clear it and add that $10 and add some other county, like Waukesha, and do a calculate, I get 1050 instead of 1055. There's a difference here. So let's look at the code real quickly. The code in this program looks something like this. It's got a tax rate of 0.05 sitting in it. And then it does its calculation type thing. Before we actually examine this code, let's take a look at the flowchart in this thing to give an idea of just what we're trying to do. So we'll look at a flowchart. And I'll bring up the code next to it right away. And what we have here is basically, we're starting the program right here. We're entering a price, we're entering a county, and we have a tax rate set at 0.05%. And that's exactly what we're doing here in our code. We've set a tax rate of 0.05. Then we're actually going in and giving an if statement. And if the county happens to be Milwaukee, we're going to branch off to the if statement and change the tax rate to 0.055. Otherwise, we're going to leave it alone. But in any event, it's all going to come back to amount equals price times tax rate. So we're going to calculate that down here. So we're going to go ahead and leave the double tax rate at 0.55, or this is the if statement right here. We're creating 55 here. Otherwise it stays the same. If it ignores this if statement, it's going to stay 0.05. And then do the calculation, which you see right here, and display that amount. So what we just saw was the amount come up as 10.55, $10.55 for Milwaukee County, but anywhere else it's coming up with 10.50. It's just the 50 cent coming out there. So you're not getting that full thing. So that's one way of doing this. Now we can change this program to do an if-else, and that's what I really want to show you. So we're looking at our program here, and I'm going to go ahead and close this thing off. Let's go ahead and shrink these guys back down. And we're going to go ahead and close this program off. I want to bring up a new version. Okay, once again, we're looking at the calculated amount with sales tax, and this is exactly the same form we had before. It runs exactly the same. We'll run it again. I'll put in 10.00 again and put in Milwaukee as the county and do a calculate, and I get 10.55, $10.55. If I change this again to some other county and do a calculate, I'll get 10.05, 10.05%. So what's going on here? What's the difference here? Let's take a look. If we go into the code and take a look at it, actually should say 0.05, that's fine, whatever it says here. Instead of having the tax rate up here, we set up the variable up here at tax rate. But in our code, in our button, when we actually do the calculate, we have an if-else statement here. So if the string county is set equal to Milwaukee, we'll make the tax rate this. Otherwise, we'll set the tax rate to this. We're going to set the tax rate each time we come through here. An if-else statement either takes one branch or the other, depending upon the Boolean up here. So if we end up with Milwaukee, we're going to end up with a tax rate of 0.055. Anything else can be 0.005 in this case. And then we do our calculations, and it becomes quite different. Let's look at that from a standpoint of the graphics. If you look at the flowchart, we can take a look and see that we're entering the price again, we're entering the county, and this is the way we're going to structure the if statement. We're going to look if the county is equal to Milwaukee. If it is, it's going to go one way or the other. So if it's equal to Milwaukee, it's going to go setting a tax rate of 0.55. Actually, it should be backwards here. This should be true over here. But we're going to go one way or the other way and then go ahead and calculate this amount. A little different than you saw over here when you looked at this particular tax rate. And making you go like this. Where we just went straight down and went this direction, otherwise we went here. So by going in this direction, the if-else gives us more of a clearer understanding of what we want to do. We're going to do this or we're going to do this. It's not going to branch straight down through. It's going to take one branch or the other and actually go through. That's the only difference with an if statement that you're actually seeing here. The code looks somewhat different as well. Again, we have our variable set up here. We're setting our price, bring it in, bring in the county, and then we're actually interrogating to see if the STR county is equal to Milwaukee. If it is, we'll set the tax rate to 0.055, or we'll set the double tax rate to equal to 0.005 if it's not Milwaukee. So this is where the else is. The if-else allows you to go in one direction or the other. It's more specific to what you're actually seeing, so it's clearer if you have the else piece in there. And that's how you create the if-else statement rather than an if statement alone and letting it drop through. As you can see, using the if statement or using the if-else statement doesn't affect the form at all. It's 100% code only. The form doesn't change. So students often ask me, which one do I use? It's typically up to you which one is easier given the problem or which one is clearer. And we'll see if there is a lot of variation when programming making decisions. There's a ton of that. Today there are many different ways to do the same thing specifically to make coding easier to understand. That's really the key to programming. There's never just one way to do things. You code the way it makes sense to you. You build your own style. As you program more and more, you'll begin to develop a style that is all yours. One thing I'll mention, we did no error checking in this example. Had a user entered letters in the price, the program would have blown sky high. Just as well, if the program would have misspelled Milwaukee, the correct tax rate wouldn't have been used. It would have thought it was a different county and would have gone on. Those are all things we will learn as we learn more and more about the decision process and how we error check for our user input. What you need to take out of this video is how the if statement is structured, how the if-else statement is structured, how it is helpful to have a flowchart by your side, and there's always more than one way to do something. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. If you get a chance, please subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Take care, everybody.